Alhamdulillahi wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadihi allazina istafa amma ba'd. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik sallam. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik sallam. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik sallam. Rabbi yassir wa la tu'assir wa tammim bil khair wa bika nasta'in ya Fattah ya Alim. Rabbi zidni ilma. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqtatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inshallah, today we will cover the prophethood of Nabi Islam, his Nabuwat, when he got prophethood and what happened. So before the time Nabi Islam got prophethood, he already started getting some dreams, right? So it comes in Bukhari and Muslim. Hazrat Aisha Radhiyallahu anha narrated that divine revelation upon Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam originated with pious dreams. Whatever he witnessed in his dreams, it would come to pass as true as the crack of dawn. All right. And then Ibn Abu Jamara says that the dreams of Nabi Islam are compared to dawn because the sun of prophethood had not as yet risen. Just as the crack of dawn signifies the imminent advent of the sun, similarly pious dreams were an introduction to the imminent advent of the son of prophethood. इसीलिए नबी इस्लाम को पहले अल्लाह सुब्हानहू तआला ने ख्वाब के ज़रिए जो है वो शुरू करा उनकी फॉर्मल नबूवत से पहले. And after that, Nabi Islam started liking solitude. तो वो he started going to to the cave of Hira और वहाँ पे जाके वो बैठते थे and he used to ponder about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how to worship him. कभी वो सोचते थे कि अल्लाह ताला की इबादत कैसे करनी चाहिए, कभी वो सोचते थे कि अल्लाह ताला कहाँ हैं, कैसे हैं, ठीक है. So he always was in search of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he used to love spending time alone. Al-Mu'minin Hazrat Aisha radhiyallahu anha narrates that thereafter solitude was made dear to him. He would often go into seclusion in the cave of Hira. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intends to shower his special mercy upon a person, he cultivates the yearning for solitude and seclusion within the person's heart. Allah Ta'ala says that, in Quran, in the story of the people of Kahf, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وإذ اعتزلتموهم وما يعبدون إلا الله فأووا إلى الكهف ينشر لكم ربكم من رحمته ويهيئ لكم من أمركم مرفقا. And when you withdraw from them and from whatever else they worship besides Allah, then seek refuge in the cave so that your Lord may broaden for you His mercy and He may make your affairs easy for you. Okay? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, the people Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves, the people who want to find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they practice seclusion. ठीक है. इसका क्या मतलब है? इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि आप दुनिया से हट कट करके पूरी जिंदगी गुजार रहे हैं, but what it means is that you should take out some one-on-one time with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It can be a few minutes, it can be early in the morning, it can be late at night, it can be in the middle of the day, whenever you're free from responsibilities, whenever you can concentrate, whether you're at home or you're in the masjid, आपको कुछ टाइम निकालना चाहिए कि आप अल्लाह ताला के साथ वन ऑन वन रिलेशनशिप गुजारें. You can make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you can do zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you can, just sit and ponder about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? You can think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you can thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you need to have that relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Even salah is, one part of our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as it comes in hadith, an ta'budullaha ka'annaka tara, that we should Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we should worship Him as if we see Him. And Nabi Islam said, as-salatul mi'rajul mu'min. Salah is the mi'raj of the moment. This is when Nabi Islam took the journey of mi'raj and he went and he met Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? In some narrations. तो हमें भी अल्लाह सुब्हानहू व तआला के लिए टाइम निकालना चाहिए. We're too busy in our worldly activities. We're too busy with doing everything, with our duties, etc., etc. लेकिन हमें कुछ टाइम निकालना चाहिए, right? To ponder and to sit alone and to think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to shukr on all the blessings, to do sabr on any trials and tribulations we have, और उनसे दुआ मांगनी चाहिए. Dua is just a conversation, right? Just like you have a conversation with a loved one, it's a conversation with your loved one, that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? So Nabi Islam started going to Mount Faran and Cave Hira, right? Cave Hira was on Mount Faran, or he used to regularly go to Cave Hira and think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One day, when he reached the age of 40, he was as usual in Cave Hira when he suddenly saw an angel appear in the cave. Okay? Hazrat Jibreel alayhi salam came to him and he said, Iqra. Nabi Islam replied saying, Ma ana biqari, that I am unable to read. How can I read? Because Nabi Islam was ummi. He was not literate, so he did not go to a formal education system. उनको पढ़ना नहीं आता था, right? Then again, Jibreel alayhi salam said, Iqra. He said again, Ma ana biqari. Upon this, Hazrat Jibreel alayhi salam embraced him. He hugged him very tightly, held him very tightly, so forcefully that Nabi Islam says that there was no limit to my suffering. He again told me, Iqra, read, right? And then continuing like this, Nabi Islam says that the angel likewise forcefully embraced me a second and then a third time, released me, and then bade me to recite the following verses. And this is when the first wahi came to Nabi Islam, when Nabi Islam recited um, with Hazrat Jibreel alayhi salam. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. Read in the name of Allah, your Rabb, right? Who has created the entire universe. He has created man from a clot of blood. Read, and your Rabb is the most gracious who has taught by the use of the pen. He has taught man that which he did not know. Okay? So if you ponder upon the first ayat, right, आपको पता चलता है कि इल्म की नॉलेज की कितनी इंपॉर्टेंस है in the deen of Islam. The first revelation was Iqra, read. Yeah, but read in the name of your Lord who created everything. Allazi khalaq. Khalaq al-insana min alaq. And he created man from a blood clot. So we are nothing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are useless, we are faqir. And he is everything. Iqra wa rabbukal akram. Read that your Lord is the most gracious, akram, the most kareem, akram. Alladhi allama bil qalam, who has taught knowledge by the use of the pen, right? So again, emphasis on ilm. Allama al-insana ma lam ya'lam, and he has taught man which he did not know. Okay. So then Nabi Islam, he after he said these verses, he returned home trembling. He was anxious and anxiety. Okay. When he went home, on the way, all the trees and all the stones, they embraced him and they said, what did they say? They greeted him. They say, Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah, because this was the formal adornment of prophethood on Nabi Islam, right? Um, and so Nabi Islam was afraid, right? He was shivering, he was anxious, he was feeling cold. He went to Hazrat Khadija radiallahu anha and he told her to cover me, and she wrapped him up with a blanket. And he said that I was terrified of losing my life, right? Of course, divine revelation and spiritual illumination can be very, very heavy, right? And insani taqaza hai aisa hai कि it's very heavy for him. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Quran, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim in Surah Muzammil, Inna sanulqi alayka qawlan thaqila. We will reveal upon you a very burdensome word. So Quran revelation is not easy. It's difficult, right? On a human especially. Wahi is not easy. And because this was the first time Nabi Islam was in shock, he was anxious. However, he got his first revelation. Okay. Hazrat Zaid bin Sabir radhiyallahu anhu narrates that on one occasion Nabi Islam's thigh was on my thigh, right? So Nabi Islam was sitting, his thigh was on the thigh of Hazrat Zaid bin Sabir radhiyallahu anhu, and Nabi Islam started receiving revelation. He said that his thigh suddenly became so unbearably heavy that I was afraid of my thigh being reduced to pulp. मुझे लग रहा था कि मेरी थाई जो है वो फट जाएगी, right? It was so heavy. Just imagine. And Nabi Islam used to get, pasina on his matha. उनके माथे मुबारक के ऊपर पसीना होता था जब he was getting revelation. ठीक है? All right. When he went to Hazrat Khadija radiallahu anha and he was worried, what did his beloved wife do? She consoled him, right? And what a beautiful consoling this is. She said, congratulations to you. This is a source of glad tidings. Do not panic. By Allah, He will never disgrace you. You maintain favorable family ties. So she started telling him all the positive things about him, right? Your efforts at maintaining good family ties are notable. You always speak the truth. You're al-Sadiq al-Amin. You bear the burdens of others. You shoulder the debt of others. You attend to the affairs of the poor. You are trustworthy. You return whatever has been entrusted to your care. You always fulfill the rights of the guests. You are always willing to assist in good works. You also say you have never ever been close to an evil woman. ठीक है? In short, उन्होंने नबी अलैहिस्सलाम की तारीफ करना शुरू कर दी. Why was that? Because he was in a very anxious position. Okay. So this also, we learn another lesson here. The role of a spouse when the other spouse is in a, let's say in a situation where they need help, rather than criticizing them, right? We should contemplate them. Rather than saying that, why did you do this? Why did you do that? You should not have done this. We should do their tarif. We should console them. We should sit them down, put them on our laps, bring them closer and be nice and soft to them. It takes a few minutes, right? और उसके अंदर ये होगा that we will, calm them down. They will stop panicking because, at the end of the day, a spouse is who we turn towards, if you're married. Um, and if the spouse just keeps criticizing and ignoring and making fun, it's not going to be a good thing, right? And वो spouse की relationship अजीब सी होती है. That's why Nabi Islam used to love Hazrat Khadija radiallahu anha so much and vice versa, right? She used to love him so much as well. So she was able to calm him down and he soon realized that she's right? She said that by Allah in whose absolute control lies Khadija's life, I firmly expect you to be the messenger of the Ummah. When she said this, Nabi Islam got even more consoled, right? Um, And she told Nabi Islam to take heart and accept the glad tidings, right? Because this is good news. So Hazrat Khadija Ta'ala Anha then went alone to her cousin Warqa bin Nawfal. Warqa bin Nawfal, this is the second time she's going to him. वो एक scholar थे, he was very old and he was a celebrated scholar of the Old and the New Testaments. He was busy translating the New Testament from Syriac into Arabic. ठीक है? And he was a true Christian. ठीक है? He was away from idolatry and any other, shirk. He was a true Christian. When he heard the story of Hazrat Khadija radiallahu anha, he said that if you are truthful in whatever you say, verily this is the same angel who used to come to Isa alayhi salam. Then Nabi Islam को वो खुद ले गई. So she went back home. She told Nabi Islam this. और वो नबी इस्लाम को खुद लेके गई वारका बिन नौफल के पास. और उन्होंने फरमाया कि आप अपनी कहानी खुद सुनाएं. When Nabi Islam revealed everything, he said, the moment he heard the details, he became absolutely convinced of the truth and he ardently accepted and wholeheartedly submitted to the truth. Right? Warka said, indeed, this is the same angel that used to appear before Musa alayhi salam. If only I was strong enough during your prophethood when your people will banish you from your birthplace, or at least I wish I am alive to see those times. Nabi Islam got stunned when he heard this. He was like, what? Will my people really drive me out? He said, yes. This is not only confined to you. All the prophets who came with the divine message faced hostility from their own people. Right? And we know this from Quran. You know, all the prophets, Nuh alayhi salam, Lut alayhi salam, Isa alayhi salam, Musa alayhi salam, or Ibrahim alayhi salam, all the prophets that came, they faced hostility from their people when they became prophets and they gave the message of La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, right? Or La ilaha illallah. Why? Usse pehle tak everyone loved them, right? Nabi Islam, everyone loved, everyone embraced him. As soon as he brought the message, because it was going against their tradition, it was going against idolatry, it was going against their shirk, उनके बुतों के खिलाफ जा रही थी, उनके कस्टम्स के खिलाफ जा रही थी, उनकी जिस तरीके से वो पैसे कमाते थे सूद से, अडल्ट्री से, वो हराम होने वाला था उनके बचोरी से. Hence, it was difficult for them. Hence, they were expected to go against Nabi Islam. And this is what Warqa bin Nawfal was telling Nabi Islam to expect as well. However, he said that, I will probably not live long enough because I'm very old, but if I am alive, I will certainly help you when they are driving you out. All right. So, nonetheless, whenever Nabi Islam then went back home, he was more content after that and he accepted Nabuwat. Now, whenever Nabi Islam used to start feeling uneasy, Jibreel Islam would appear and tell him, Ya Muhammad, innaka Rasulullahi haqqan. O Muhammad, you are indeed the true prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And on hearing these verses and on hearing these words, Nabi Islam would get more content that it's not something that is difficult, but it's something that is easy, right? And this is the truth. Um, Now, on the date of the prophethood, right? So, all right, before we go on the date, so what is our learning from what Warqa bin Nawfal told Nabi Islam? Every major responsibility comes with a big burden. ठीक है आपको कोई भी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी मिले चाहे वो दीनी हो चाहे वो दुनियावी हो चाहे वो फैमिली की हो चाहे वो काम की हो चाहे वो इखलाकी जिम्मेदारी हो any zimmedari that you get is going to come with a big burden, right? And that's what they say, right? There's a saying in English, um, when the going gets tough, the tough get going, right? तो जब किसी के ऊपर जिम्मेदारी आती है उसके बाद उनका टेस्ट होता है कि वो कैसे जिम्मेदारी निभाएंगे when you have no responsibility or very less responsibility that's not a test for you because it's easy but when you actually get that responsibility that's the true test of your colors of how you are going to react. So, and who was tested the most? The Anbiya were tested the most. And out of the Anbiya, who was tested the most? Nabi Islam was tested the most. Nabi Islam narrates this in a hadith to the Sahaba Karam that amongst all human beings, the prophets were tested the most, and amongst all the prophets, I was tested the most. Okay? So, this shows the strength, the character of the prophets and Nabi Islam that they were tested and they stuck to the tests and they actually passed the test with flying colors. So we should not get burdened down when we are tested or we should जिम्मेदारियों के साथ हमें उलझ नहीं जाना चाहिए. We should embrace them. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a big family to take care of, alhamdulillah, He's actually blessed us with a big family to take care of. We should do it positively. We should embrace it. If we have big responsibilities at work or in business or in family or in akhlaq or in community or in the neighborhood, we should also embrace it. Why? Because again, it is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, and the reason He's given us is because He wants to test us. If we pass that test, our maqam in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the eyes of people, will be increased. So every big thing comes with a burden, comes with responsibility. There is no free lunch in this world, right? There's an English saying. There's no free lunch. You have to earn and yearn everything, right? You have to work hard for everything. So that's another learning that we get from this, from the Nabuwat of Nabi Islam. Now, on the date of prophethood, all the muhaddiseen and the historians are unanimous over the fact that Nabi Islam was bestowed Nabuwat on a Monday. However, in terms of the date, there is some debate. But the biggest opinion is that it was on the 8th of Rabiul Awwal, which is also one of the dates of his birth, which means that he was exactly 40 when he got नबूवत. ठीक है. Now in terms of the dates, right, इस्लाम के अंदर जवानी चलती है 40 साल तक. Yeah? Some of you might become happy that we're still जवाना, alhamdulillah. Why? Because your youth is when you are, energetic, you're physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually strong. And that is when you are at 40. 40 is your peak. Your emotional, physical, spiritual, mental, social peak is 40. Okay? And after 40, after you stay at your peak for some time, you start to then slowly and gradually decline. Okay? So that's why a lot of prophets became prophet at the age of 40. Okay? So we should also keep that in mind कि अगर हम 40 साल के करीब हैं or we're above 40, then we're close to the peak or we already crossed the peak. And what have we accomplished in our life till we were at the peak? It's never too late to do tawbah. It's never too late to change your life. You can change your life when you're 50, 60, 70, 80, right? 90, whatever. Allah Ta'ala की हिदायत इंसान को कभी भी मिल सकती है. Right? However, we should keep this in mind that, 40 is the peak age. And by this time, we should try and live a life which is worthy of living. We should not just be fooling around in our life till the time we are 40. All right. So, again, let's reflect back on our life and see that how can we make our life more fulfilling, right? So that once we are at the age of 40 and we look back and we say, yes, we put in the hard years, we put in the hard yards, our family is mature enough, हमने अपनी औलाद की तरबियत अच्छी करी है, from a dini perspective, from a dunyavi perspective, we are stable, we are mature individuals. We know what we're doing. Our life is on the right track. You don't want to be 40 and completely lost spiritually or physically or mentally, even healthy, right? Physical health, mental health. That's also important. We should take care of all of that. You don't want to be 40 and you want to be, stuck with some body bimari, for God's sake, right? या आप 40 के हो but you are what people call the midlife crisis. What is a midlife crisis, right? They're so away from deen that they don't know कि उनकी जिंदगी का मकसद क्या है. That's what midlife crisis is. Why is it so common amongst the West? Because all they believe is in acquiring dunya. They have no spiritual goals. They don't connect to the Creator Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Sooner or later they fall into depression and they end up with midlife crisis. मुसलमान के लिए तो मिड लाइफ क्राइसिस होने नहीं चाहिए. मुसलमान के लिए तो ये होना चाहिए फ्रॉम द टाइम ही और शी रीचेस प्यूबर्टी ऑल द टाइम that we die, we should know exactly what our goal is. Yes, we might still keep refining our goals, right? Um, we can keep refining our goals. However, we should know more or less on what track that we are going at, right? So we should keep this in mind. Okay, when we are close to 40 or when we're reaching 40, we should have a clear goal in mind so that we know where we're going. And if we don't, then we should seek help. We should go to ulama, we should go to mashayikh, we should go to counseling, and that we know exactly where we will end up at, right? So that's one big learning from the date and the age of prophethood, right? Now, what happens after Nabuwat, right? We're going to cover a couple of things very quickly. So, the first two things, Salah was the primary obligation after Tawheed and Risalat. So, following Tawheed and Risalat, right? Tawheed is La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, and the Nabuwat, the very first lesson imparted to Nabi Islam was Wuzu and Salah. Right? At the outset, Jibreel alayhi salam stamped his heel on the ground that caused a spring to gush forth, and Jibreel alayhi salam performed wudu with his water while Nabi alayhi salam continued observing. Then Nabi alayhi salam also performed wudu accordingly. Thereafter, Jibreel alayhi salam performed two rakats of salah with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, keeping abreast by following him throughout. Following this lesson of salah and wudu, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam returned home and imparted this ritual to Hazrat Khadija radiallahu anha. Okay? So the first two things, tahara and salah, wuzu and salah. These are the first two things we should teach our children as well. After tawheed, wudu and salah. And we should also reflect upon the fact that do we know how to do wuzu with all the sunnahs? And do we know how to pray with all the sunnahs, right? So the physical aspect, the spiritual aspect, and also the sunnah du'as of doing wuzu and the sunnah way of praying. We should know that because those were the first two things imparted to Nabi Islam. That's important, right? हमने औलाद को भी अपने बच्चों को भी अपनी फैमिली को भी ये हमें रिकमेंड करना चाहिए. Usama bin Zayd radiallahu anhu narrates from his father Zayd bin Haris radiallahu anhu that Nabi Islam said that during the initial stages of my prophethood and divine revelation, Jibreel alayhi salam appeared before me and tutored me about salah and wuzu. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, wa aqimis salata tarafayin nahar, and establish salah in both parts of the day, i.e. morning and evening. Surah Muzammil also, reveals a verse about Qiyamul Layl, which is Tahajjud, right? In the early stages of Islam, Allah Ta'ala had prescribed two rakats of Salah for the morning and two rakats for the evening. Later on, five Salahs were made compulsory on the night of Miraj. तो शुरू में दो रकात सुबह पढ़ने का बताया गया था और दो रकात शाम को पढ़ने का बताया गया था, right? And by the way, Tahajjud was compulsory upon all the prophets. It was mandatory. It was not optional. Okay? For us, it's optional, right? It's nafil, but for all the prophets, it was mandatory. Even for the early Sahaba, there's some accounts that come that it was mandatory upon some of the early Sahaba as well. All right? Subhanallah. Imagine if tahajjud became mandatory upon us. हमारे लिए फजर भी उठना इतना मुश्किल है, tahajjud तो दूर की बात है. Um, So what are the learnings that we get from this lesson? We did it, as and when the topic progressed. I think one of the most important things we know is that Salah is extremely important, right? We should never ever underestimate Salah. वक्त पे पढ़ना, टाइम पे पढ़ना, खुशी खुशू के साथ पढ़ना, तमाम सुन्ना के साथ पढ़ना. That is what we should take care of, right? In terms of praying Salah. Inshallah, we will stop here, and tomorrow we will continue our journey in Sira on to the next sections of what happened after this. Wa akhir da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.